Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Sense of Things once again with Ron and Jeff. Welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here. We've got lots of good stuff going on today. Ron's going to have some fun facts to kick us off. We're going to talk a little bit about Apple and some of the things that you could have bought with some Apple cash. And I'll go into a little bit of the CPI. I did a little dig through, and I just had a horrendously long trip to New Mexico and back from Austin, Texas, and some observations I had in these small communities. So join us here on the show. Ron, welcome, my friend. How are you?
Good morning. Good. I got to tell you, I think we said this last podcast. It's just amazing. We're already halfway through this year, and it's going to get very interesting because I think the market will remain up through the end of this month just to prop up some fun numbers, end of month, end of quarter, end of half year. But we got a Fed meeting in July, and I think that's when the political temperature is going to go up. And I guess get your popcorn out, folks. Maybe we should have a popcorn little emoji popping up on the screen every time we come up with this stuff. I don't know, but it's definitely
We've
going to
got
get more.
we've got the first presidential debate, the most inconsequential presidential debate in the middle of June. Nobody gives a crap about it, but everybody's talking about it on the news pundit world. But
We're not going to learn anything.
Nope, not.
They're going to put an octagon between the two of them. You're not going to learn anything.
Yeah, we're off to the races when it comes to that. Certainly political season's going, but I guess you've got some fun stuff for us to get started with, right?
Oh, yep, I'm going to bring that up right now. All right, so a couple of fun facts. So Jaws, one of the greatest movies of all time, and I got to tell you, it was probably 25 years since I watched the entire thing from beginning to end about a year ago.
Yep.
Loved it.
Oh, it's awesome.
You know what? You get into the characters more, even though you know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You got into it more, and it was so much parallel to Moby Dick. I don't know. Yep. It was just incredible. But here's interesting that John Williams did the theme from Jaws, and it was just two notes. Mm-hmm. And everybody that those two notes are ubiquitous whenever it comes to something suspenseful in a movie, and everybody knows exactly what movie it was from. Mm-hmm. We are coming up next year will be 50 years.
That's wow.
That was 1975 was when that movie came out.
Wow. But I think the funny part about that movie too is we have because we've got the DVD and it's got like all the extra stuff and all that. Sure. And he was talking about when he is making the movie, he goes, it was so suspenseful because you really never, for a lot of the movie, you don't really see the shark. And the reason was, he goes, the damn shark it never worked. And he goes, so we could only use like parts of it. And that made the movie because it was like, so it was a lot like, I think the first Jurassic Park was another example of that. For a very large chunk of the beginning of the movie, you don't even see any dinosaurs, but there's that suspense, which, Hitchcockian.
And in the very beginning of the movie, when the girl goes skinny dipping into the ocean, and you just see her, there was a whole scene plan where that's when you first were supposed to see the shark.
Yep.
But it made it more suspenseful, like what happened to her? Something got her. It was going to be a shark, but you're right. It made it that much better that the damn shark was broken.
It was so horrible that they couldn't actually, because when you finally see him, he looks like a fake shark. But yeah, it was the whole point of the movie. It's a movie we watch every single year, right around July 4th, because it's fun. I love the movie.
Yep. So my next one, again, Indiana Jones, and most people know that Tom Selleck was the original person cast for the Indiana Jones character, but he was offered the job, and I knew this years ago, and I wanted to bring it up again, and because he had gotten Magnum PI, and he wouldn't redo the Magnum PI schedule, they gave the part to Harrison Ford, and then rather ironically, Magnum PI was delayed, I think, 6 months to a year, so he could have done the movie.
Yeah.
How much all this would have changed his career? He still had a great career, but how much would it have changed Harrison Ford?
Yeah. Harrison Ford.
He still had Star Wars.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. He had not done really that was the one that made Harrison Ford, I think, the biggest star or the bigger star at that point. And I just don't know if anybody else could have pulled it off. I saw something a couple of weeks ago where they said that they were looking at Sinatra to play in Die Hard. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that wouldn't have worked at all. Mainly because he's wearing a tuxedo the whole time.
Also,
It
he
wouldn't
was
have
in
worked.
his early 70s.
I know. That's the
Because Die
thing.
Hard came out in 88. He was born in 1915. Crazy. All right. And then my last fun one. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me just go back here.
Go back.
This one,
There we go. They're DeLorean.
the DeLorean.
Yeah, there we go.
So it was supposed to almost,
It's
I love
almost a
this one. I didn't know this. And that's one of my all-time favorite movies. The time machine was originally supposed to be a refrigerator. How much different would the movie have been? Because how would they have gotten up to 88 miles an hour at the end of
That's
the
what
movie?
I was thinking. How
Back?
do you get a refrigerator up to 88 miles an hour and don't die in the process? Come on. The funnier part of the whole thing is I don't know how the hell they got a DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour besides rolling it
Probably had it going
downhill.
downhill.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know a little bit more about this backstory that this was in the original script. When did it change?
Yeah.
You know, because actually, and I don't want to get too far off track here, but I saw some behind the scenes listening to the people that wrote the script and how they pitched it. And the original script was very different than the end result.
Okay.
And all the additional pieces they put in made it an incredible movie. Remember,
Yeah.
Eric Stoltz, who was a terrific actor, was the one that originally was cast for Marty McFly before they brought in Michael J. Fox.
Yeah. Now
So
he
who
couldn't pull
knows how
that
much
off.
different it would have been.
Yeah, you couldn't pull it. It's amazing how those little tweaks like that of somebody that, oh, this one had a scheduling conflict. And I love Tom Selleck, honestly, but he would have been a terrible Indiana Jones. It just doesn't work.
I think he definitely had the look and everything, but would have had the charisma that Harrison Ford did. I never really thought Harrison Ford was a great actor. If you've seen him in anything other than 3 movies, he has zero range, right? I am very critical.
Yeah.
But Tom Selleck, it would have brought a different flavor to it. Who knows?
But we wouldn't have had Quigley Down Under if he'd have done that. So
I agree. And I never watched he's in what, Blue Bloods? Is that what it is?
Blue Blood, I've never watched it. I had no interest. It just doesn't really. I've watched little bits and pieces, and nothing's really captured my attention with it. So I was always a Magnum PI guy. And the funny thing is, I went back and watched the old Magnum PIs. We were going to binge watch them, and I was like, God, these are terrible. But
some of them were, the early ones were okay. Then it got a little phony baloney, but
yeah.
What are you going to do? All right. So just a couple of other quick slides here. This was as of last week that the top 7 stocks, I refuse to call it the Magnificent 7, even though I just did. The top 7 stocks now make up 30%
Wow.
of the market cap of the S&P 500. Basically almost making the 493 stocks almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
So this will, look, the echo chamber continues, but this is definitely going to have a drastic effect on the elevator down, even in the short term. Those companies aren't going anywhere, but when the air pocket comes out, it'll be significant.
When when one of them stumbles and stubs a toe or something like that, it's going to cause havoc in the markets when it happens. But I just don't know when it's going to happen. That's the challenge of it all.
We'll see what happens next month. I think we got to get through June, but Apple is a very interesting component of this because it pulled back. It was out of favor. All the financial media BS about they haven't done their AI story, which is why it's languishing. The reset upgrade cycle of the iPhone. Is it really all this BS? And then all of a sudden, June 11th and 12th, it had an unbelievable day. So back on May 9th, after the earnings, they announced the $110 billion buyback. We have this slide. We talked about what companies could you have bought with a $110 billion buyback.
Yeah.
So June 11th and 12th, Apple had a $400 million market cap bump. And with that $400 billion market cap bump, you could have bought Kimberly-Clark, Ford, GM, FedEx, PayPal, Marriott, and Northrop Grumman.
Wow.
All one time. Put it all under one umbrella. This is the sickness of what's going on. And again, we're not bashing Apple as a company. We're just trying to figure out the insanity behind the market cap, and the market moves and its overall weighting to the
Yeah.
markets.
And 2 days worth. That's the thing. It's a $1 trillion company. So for them, 400 billion is not that big of a move, but it's an insane move when you think about it in the entire market. That is insane. You're literally buying two of the largest car companies in the world and still have money left over to buy a few other things.
Some money?
Yeah. A lot of money
Some
left
money?
over. Yeah.
You haven't even spent 75% of that move yet
Yeah.
by buying GM and Ford.
Yeah.
You can't even almost fathom this. We could spend an hour just talking about how ridiculous this is, but it's going to continue because just the law of higher, bigger numbers and the move of that is just going to go. I mean, going from 90 to 100 is one thing, right? But then going from, or even going from, let's say, 90 billion to 100 billion, now we're in the $3 trillion range. It's just crazy.
Just absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. Let me share a little
what
bit.
Do you got?
I've got some stuff on CPI to talk a little bit about. CPI came out about a week ago. It was a little bit of one of those kind of shockers in the market where it was like, okay, it was down a little bit in comparison to where everybody thought it was going to be. And initially the market took off like a rocket ship. And then of course the Prozac, the Wall Street Prozac, all of a sudden the next day was like, oh my God, is the world coming apart and all that. But I really wanted to go into, regardless of where CPI is going down, it is still at an elevated level from where it had been prior to this. And it's still above where the Fed wants it to be. It's just really fighting. And so I wanted to dig into it a little bit more. Part of this is commodities have come down quite a bit. They've really come off the shelf, off this super high that they were at. But it's the services outside of energy that are just persistently not going down. And I think a big part of that is the cost of employees and everything else. You're seeing it out in California. I think you're seeing some major effects out in California right now with
restaurants.
The restaurants out there. The most iconic Arby's in the entire nation, been there for 55 years.
I saw that.
Closed this week. It was, I don't think it was completely, that was just the final death knell for them, was the $20 an hour.
They're still trying to sell it, but I got to tell you, I'm a big Arby's guy.
Oh, I am too. I love it. I wish they would stick to what they do best and stop doing all this other weird stuff that they do. But I think the lady that was in charge of it, or that owned it, she was 91 years old. And she's just, I'm not going to make major investments into all this technology that Arby's wants me to do, but to basically eliminate employees. And so she just closed the place down. What's driving this? Well, as I started to go through the components, there's, I think, 35 components total. But the standouts as far as the components that were there, electricity up 5.9% over the last 12 months. And it's accelerating. It's getting more and more every month. Transportation services, I think, is the one that you've got to look into the most. It's not buying the cars and selling. Actually, the cost of cars, both new and old, have gone down, although it spiked up a little bit on the used cars. Transportation services here, one of the biggest drivers is insurance. And it is getting off the charts. If you haven't gotten your renewal for this next year, you are going to have a shocker when you have your renewal, because rates have gone through the roof, especially in the auto side. What's driving that? Quite frankly, the biggest thing that's driving that is the cost of getting the parts to fix things. And the more electric cars we have, the more the price is going to go up, because fixing an electric car is massively expensive, and it is just going to increase as we have more and more electric cars on the road.
Also,
shelter is still
the other part of auto insurance is, and a lot of people aren't talking about this, accidents are up precipitously.
Yeah.
Not necessarily major, but also minor fender benders. And that all leads into fixing of the cars, getting parts. Separate conversation of why I think accidents are up so much, but that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, but I think it's a lot of distracted driving and everything else. Yes. People driving around on their cell phones, trying to do business or trying to check their Facebook or watch cat videos or whatever. and slamming into people. Shelter is still persistently up there as well. So those are the three major areas that are just driving this. And you still get inflation across the board up, but these are the ones that are really pushing things. And quite frankly, yes, you can control electricity by saying, okay, I'm going to raise my, in the summer, I'm going to raise up my thermostat. In the winter, I'm going to lower my thermostat. But there's only so much control you have. Transportation services, you have zero control over that. They're going to tell you what your rates are. And quite frankly, shelter, you're stuck. You don't really have a choice there. So it's leaving people struggling in those cases. Hourly earnings are also down year over year too, which is interesting. That's a driver, but you're starting to see those hourly earnings go down, which is not a good sign when you have inflation up there.
Question, hourly earnings, go back.
Yep.
So is hourly earnings meaning the number of hours they're working or what they're earning per hour because
what they're
minimum
earning
wage went up?
Yeah, what they're earning per hour. And so here's the issue though,
Or is
hourly
that
earnings
over a
are
40-hour work week?
Yeah, the hours are being cut back. So they might be at the same rate, but they're making less money because their hours are being cut back. So you're seeing hours work kind of pulling back each month, it seems like.
Right. So the hourly rate went up, the hours went down, so they're netting the same.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to talk about today is what I'm calling the Dollar General effect. Yeah, I just was with my wife. My mother-in-law died, and we had to go up to New Mexico. So we from Austin, Texas to Albuquerque, New Mexico, there is no easy way to get there besides driving through the smallest towns in West Texas and New Mexico that you're ever going to see. And it was just interesting to me to see the makeup of these small towns as far as their what we take for granted, I think, living in big cities. And living in a big city, I've got 4 different grocery stores I can go to. I've got dollar stores, I've got Walmarts and everything else and Targets. These folks don't have that in these small rural communities. But what they do have is the dollar store. And in many of these small communities, this is the place that they go. This is the place that they go in those areas. And it was interesting to see because mainly we were really bored. So we started counting Dollar Generals and Dollar Trees and Family Dollars. And it was hilarious to see. It was almost like if you went into one town, if it was a really small town, there might be a Dollar General there. And then, as I put it, as you were coming up in the world, you might also have a Family Dollar or a Dollar Tree there. And so there was some competition. But in many of these towns, there was just 1 or maybe 2 of these stores with no grocery stores or anything like that. Now, Dollar General is closing 800 stores. And I think part of that is they have stuck to their guns when it comes to where everything's a dollar in those cases. They've really stuck to their guns. And the other ones have it. And Dollar Tree and Family Dollar are owned. Dollar Tree a decade ago took over Family Dollar.
I think half the stuff in the store is more than $1.
Yeah, and they've done that, and they've said it's $1.25 is their base price now, and they have a lot of $5 items and things along those lines. It was interesting to see though that there's some dual branded stores. So you'd go by and you'd see Dollar Tree, Family Dollar. They're literally in the same building, 2 separate signs, and it's the same store basically. Which I don't understand that branding. Dollar Tree is closing a bunch of Family Dollars, but it just, I think more than anything, they're probably just rebranding them or they're closing them, but it's these dual branded stores, which make absolutely 0 sense to me. But that says at least Dollar Tree has thought through this a little bit and said, okay, we're going to be smart about what we're doing. They're not abandoning the communities. They're just saying, why do we have a Dollar Tree and a Family Dollar when we're the same store at that point in a lot of these communities? But for me, I looked at this and said, it's amazing the investment that they've made in these communities, these small communities. They're a small player in my town. People go there, but it's not the biggest deal. Here, this is where people go to shop for clothing. This is where they go to shop for their sundries and everything else. That is the option. Or you drive 40 or 50 miles to get to a bigger city to go to your grocery store.
And
And
the
a lot of
savings you
these
would have
are,
had, you would have ate up in gas.
and a lot of these are farm communities. So I think the farming and ranching communities, so they grow their own food, but this is the place they go for sundries and everything.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting to
Sure.
me. And I'm going to do a little bit of research next week for the next week's show. So a little thing to talk about one of the other things I recognized, which is interesting, was the Yum Brands pizza. In these small towns, they have made a massive investment in these small towns of going back to the old school. Like when you and I grew up, Pizza Hut was the Pizza Hut. You went to Pizza Hut. That was like a major thing on a Friday night or something like that. You went to Pizza Hut. Dad and mom got the big old pitcher of beer, and you sat there and you ate a Pizza Hut. You didn't order out. It's interesting, in these small rural communities, Pizza Hut has made a massive investment, and there were some of the nicest, newest Pizza Huts that I've ever seen coming through all these towns. So it's interesting. I want to see what they're doing from a Yum Brand standpoint as a result of that.
Yum also owns Taco Bell and Kentucky Fried Chicken too. So
yeah. So like I said, it was an interesting story for me. I want to see how much they're investing into that, and we'll see if that is a smart idea. I personally think it is, because in a lot of these towns, you might have one or two mom and pop restaurants, and then you have this nice new shiny Pizza Hut that is taking over the dinner shift. Because a lot of these,
but when we were kids, to wrap it up, when we were kids, you could take a family of 4 to Pizza Hut for 12 to 15 bucks.
Yep.
I know we sound like old codgers at this point, but today you take a family of 4 to Pizza Hut, you're spending 40, 50 bucks, blink of an eye. Nobody easy.
Yeah, but still, in comparison, good Lord, you go to, if you're out in California, you go to a McDonald's, you're going to spend 40 or 50 bucks to go to a McDonald's. And I think you've got a little bit healthier food at a Pizza Hut than you're going to get through McDonald's at that point.
I agree. It's just, I still make my lunch and dinners and breakfast 70% of the time. And it's because I enjoy cooking, but also you just go out and you're like, how much was that? I just got a bagel. You know,
Well, I think that was the shocker for us, because I'm used to dropping 40 or 50 bucks for 2 of us to go to breakfast. And New Mexico, typically prices are a little bit lower. I don't think I've spent more than 30 bucks on breakfast for some really good breakfast, way better than I get here. So it's just
eggs, toast, potatoes.
No, that's the components of it. But green chili, that's the key, man. Breakfast burritos. We were shoveling those down every day. Folks, thank you for joining us. This is why we do this stuff. We want you to be aware of what's going on out there, maybe make you think a little bit, and hopefully you get something out of this. So if you do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give us that upvote, let us know what you like, what you don't like, and we will continue to do these shows